Hi everyone, I'm Eric Woodall, Producing Artistic Director of North Carolina Theater. On behalf of our President and CEO, Elizabeth Doran, welcome to Backstage at NCT. We want to give you a backstage look at how productions get made. At North Carolina Theater, we make our own professional Broadway-caliber shows right here in Raleigh. So what you see when you attend an NCT production at Raleigh's Duke Energy Center for the Performing Arts is a production that has been rehearsed and put together right here. So how does a production get made? What are the steps that have been taken before you sit down to watch one of our shows? What's happening behind the scenes while you are watching? So many of the artisans who make a show come together you never get to see. So we thought this Backstage series would be a fascinating and educational way to look at some of these integral jobs which are imperative when bringing a show to life. And although nothing can replace live theater, on each episode we will be bringing you a special performance for you to enjoy. So take a walk behind the curtain with us and enjoy this look backstage at NCT. On this episode, we want to explore costume design and coordination for a professional theater production. Who decides what a character is going to wear? Where do costumes come from? At North Carolina Theater, we have worked with some incredible designers, both from our local area as well as from Broadway. In recent years, we've collaborated with LeGrand Smith, Meredith Scott, and Annie Bruskowitz. Today we sit down with longtime NCT collaborator Denise Schumaker. We are spreading the joy at NCT this week with our Week of Giving, and I can't think of a better guest to symbolize the joy of theater. At North Carolina Theater, Denise has worked on 85 productions over the last 35 years through the main stage shows and the youth conservatory programs. Since 2007, she's also been working in film and television, for which she was honored with an Emmy nomination. And during this pandemic, Denise has turned our costume shop into a mask-making factory, personally making hundreds of face coverings. Please help me welcome Denise Schumaker. Denise, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
As I was saying in the introduction, you have been a part of North Carolina Theater for quite a while, and you're such a part of the history of this company, this institution. And I just want to jump in and ask, what is a costume designer?
Costume designer's job is to translate a playwright's intentions and the director's vision into clothing. So essentially we paint with fabric and the actor is our canvas. But it's more than just dressing people up. We read the play, we do research on the period and the setting of the play, any specific things about characters. If someone has an occupation that maybe we don't know about, we have to research that. And then we speak with the director and find out what his wishes are. Even if a show's been done thousands of times, every director will want to kind of make it more relevant to a modern audience and put his own spin on it a little bit, so we find out what their vision is for that. And then we kind of sketch out our ideas and share those with other designers so that we're all on the same page. And then we get down to doing the work. And sometimes a costume designer is a one-woman band, one-man band. Sometimes they have a whole staff of people doing a lot of the cutting and sewing and shopping and things like that. So sometimes it's usually between 1 and 20 people doing the work, but it's, you know, shopping for fabrics and supplies. Sometimes it's shopping for garments, cutting, sewing, doing fittings, alterations, organizing things. So it just depends on how many people there are, but ultimately it's to translate that vision onto the stage via clothing.
So at North Carolina Theater, many of our productions do have a costume design. There's a designer working on the show and we build things from scratch. But also for some of the big musicals that we do, we will rent costumes. We will bring in a large costume package from a theater company that has done the show before. So what is the difference between being the costume designer on a show and being a costumer on a show?
When you're trying to put together a show in a very quick time period, there just isn't time to start from scratch and do all that. So we will rent costumes on occasion, and that's generally you're going to have a costumer who is taking the measurements of the actors, unpacking the boxes, organizing that. and doing fittings and alterations, trying to make someone else's design fit a new cast. There is an element of design in it because sometimes you have to add things. Maybe you have one extra chorus member than the original production. Maybe you have a costume that didn't fit someone, so you have to recreate something that someone else had plenty of time to make from scratch. So there is an element of design in it, but it's mostly just about coordinating it and making it work for a new cast, which sometimes is more difficult because you don't have the luxury of using the original actor's coloring or height or something. Sometimes you're trying to make a costume that really wasn't meant for them look good on them.
Once a production is rehearsed and then through tech rehearsal and into opening, when is a costume designer or a costumer's job complete?
Costumer or costume designer's job is complete once the show opens, assuming that the costumes are to the director's liking. At that point, a wardrobe supervisor takes over and coordinates everything backstage, so makes sure that the costumes are in the correct place in the dressing rooms, coordinates the backstage crew dressers to help the actors with quick changes, and maintains the show throughout the run. You want to make sure that the director's vision is realized on stage all the way through the performances. Sometimes you have, the show can go on for years, so you want to make sure that the 700th performance looks the same on stage as it does for the first performance.
I think that's such an interesting aspect that a lot of people might not be familiar with, is that the costumer or costume designer, much like the director, is finished and often flies away, or you might go on to another project while the show is running. And so then there is a position called wardrobe supervisor, and there can be a team of people that actually are, ironing all the clothes before the performance starts. And many times have to get there hours before a performance and stay a long time after because of, why would that be? What's that preparation like for the wardrobe supervisor?
Wardrobe is usually the first person in the building and the last person to leave the building. It takes time to get costumes laundered and ironed and in the right place. If you can imagine on a large show, especially, you have hundreds of costume pieces, and you want to make sure everybody has their socks and that something isn't missing. A belt or a tie can throw the whole thing off. So it takes time to wash those things and get them dried before they're needed again and get them prepared. And then after the show, we have laundry to do. And if you've got 30 people in a cast, that you get that started sometimes. It also repairs. So that stuff just takes time, and you have to be in there early and stay there late to get it all done.
You've done a lot of film and television work as well, and there are so many differences because when you're getting something ready to film it, you just have to have it prepared to get it done once.
Yes.
It's just got to hold it together for once, and when something is going to be on stage, it's got to be durable. You just were referencing that it always needs to look the same every performance, and that takes maintenance and upkeep. And so not to ask you to compare, but what do you find more rewarding, or better, what do you find most rewarding about working on a theatrical production?
That's a really good question. It's kind of hard to answer. I like the energy of theater productions. We all know that it's the only time we're going to do it. That night is that performance, and it's a brand new audience that hasn't seen that performance before. So there's just an energy about it that I don't find is in film and television. There's a different energy in film and television. That's exciting too. But just the exhilaration, I think, of a live performance, because somebody comes off stage from dancing a big production number, and it doesn't just stop. It's not cut and then everyone goes back to normal. There's just this energy that you kind of have to play out backstage that the rest of us can feel. Even if we weren't the ones dancing, we can feel that in them as they come off stage and get their breath back.
If you had advice for someone who was interested in having a life in the theater and most specifically wanted to go into costume design, what would you tell them?
I think I would encourage people to try to get some work at community theaters and just go in and volunteer as a stitcher or a dresser. There are a lot of companies where you don't need experience. They'll teach you what to do, and you might have to start, simple and build up, and that's how I did it. Honestly, I've never had any kind of theater or costume course. I just learned by doing it, and I would really encourage people to do that. It's not the best path for everyone if you want to be serious about it, but just to experience it and see what it's like before you decide that's what you want to do for a living.
I think that's wonderful advice. I certainly, school and training is fantastic and wonderful, but I think, like so many different areas in theater, we can learn by doing.
Yes.
And I think it's important to do both, you know, and you start to see for individuals what fits them more. But I think jumping in and just doing it is wonderful.
At universities, you learn like the correct way to do things, but when you get to an actual theater situation, you might be in a place that doesn't really have a great budget. They don't have state-of-the-art equipment. They don't have access to the perfect thing, and so you have to create that, sometimes from a thrift store garment or whatever. So I would encourage really both. Learn how to do it correctly, but learn also how to be resourceful just by doing it and being in the environment where you're actually likely to be working, just to see, because some people don't like having to do it that way. They want to be able to do it the correct way, and then your path is going to be a little bit different probably.
What would you say is one of the most challenging aspects of working in costumes?
I think the most challenging aspect of working in costumes is probably time. There's almost never enough time for what we need to do. We have a lot of bodies to cover of all shapes and sizes, and sometimes it's really tricky to get the supplies you need. Even if you're just shopping for a show, sometimes you can't find the thing you need in the size you need. And so trying to get it all here, get it fitted, get it altered, and then there are inevitably changes. Oops, we add one more person to the scene, or the director doesn't like this in the lights, or whatever it is, and you're just always racing to get things finished. So time is probably the biggest challenge.
What would you say is one of the most rewarding aspects of working in the theater?
Going back to what I said before, for me, one of the most rewarding things is the moment after curtain call on the opening night of a show with teenagers. There's this energy that you can't duplicate. It's a lot of times their first time, and even if they've done a few shows, they still have that excitement about it being a new experience, and it's about art and passion, and not about how am I going to get 30 pairs of socks dried before the evening show. They don't think about that stuff. It takes me back to my own days in high school when I felt that. So I love working with teenagers because it's always somebody's first time. They're not jaded about it yet.
Well, and that is a beautiful way to discuss and pay tribute to the joy of theater.
Yes.
And speaking of joy, you are so much joy. Thank you.
Well,
thank you, Denise, for being here.
Thank
This
you.
has been fantastic.
Thank you.
Next, we have such a treat for you. Sai Graham has been associated with North Carolina Theater for several years. Not only has he been a cast member in many of our productions, he has also been one of our talented teaching artists with the North Carolina Theater Conservatory. Accompanying him on the piano is Brian Phoebus. Please enjoy Sai Graham.
End of May or early June, this picture-perfect afternoon we share. Drive the winding country road, grab a scoop at a la mode, and then we're there. An open field that's framed with trees, we pick a spot and shoot the breeze like buddies do. Quoting songs by our favorite bands, telling jokes no one understands except us two. And we talk and take in the view. All we see is sky for forever. We let the world pass by for forever. Feels like we could go on for forever this way. Two friends on a perfect day. We walk a while and talk about the things we'll do when we get out of school. Bike the Appalachian Trail, or write a book, or learn to sail. Wouldn't that be cool? There's There's nothing that we can't discuss, like girls we wish would notice us, but never do. He looks around and says to me, there's nowhere else I'd rather be, and I say, me too. And we talk and take in the view. We just talk and take in the view. All we see is sky for forever. We let the world pass by for forever. Feels like we could go on for forever this way, this way. All we see is light for forever, 'cause the sun shines bright for forever. Like we'll be alright for forever this way. Two friends on a perfect day. And there he goes, racing towards the tallest tree. From far across the yellow field I hear him calling, follow me. And there we go, wondering how the world might look from up so high. One foot after the other, one branch then to another. I climb higher and higher, I climb till the entire sun shines on my face. Then I suddenly feel the branch give away. I'm on the ground. My arm goes numb. I look around and I see him coming to get me. He's coming to get me. And everything's okay. All we see is sky for forever. We let the world pass by for forever. Buddy, you and I for forever this way, this way. All we see is light, 'cause the sun burns bright. We could be alright for forever this way. Two friends, true friends, on a perfect day.
Sai, thank you.
Thank you so
You
much.
are amazing. And the incredible Brian Phoebus on the keys. You know, we consider you part of our family here at North Carolina Theater. You've been a part of many main stage productions, and you've also been a teaching artist with the North Carolina Theater Conservatory. What has that experience been like for you?
That experience has been truly incredibly rewarding. Whether I'm going to schools and I'm face-to-face with students doing scene work with anti-bullying or anti-drug skits, or I'm here with the homeschool program and introducing them to the world of theater and showing them that it could be a hobby or a profession, and just being able to use my talents to bring out joy in students is just amazing.
You're an inspiration.
Thank you.
To share her musical talents with us is one of our very own conservatory students, Adair Mahoney. Adair is currently a freshman at Enloe High School. She would have played the title role in our production of Matilda this summer, but since you weren't able to see her play that part, she is singing a song from the show. Accompanying her on the piano is Brian Phoebus. Please enjoy Adair Mahoney.
Have you ever wondered, well I have, about how when I say red, for example, there's no way of knowing if red means the same thing in your head as red means in my head when someone says red. Now if we are traveling at almost the speed of light, and we're holding a light, that light would still travel away from us at the full speed of light, which seems right in a way. But I'm trying to say, I'm not sure, but I'm wondering if inside my head I'm not just a bit different from some of my friends. These answers that come into my mind not bidden, these stories delivered to me fully written. And when everyone shouts like they seem to like shouting, the noise in my head is incredibly loud. I just wish they'd stop. My dad and my mom and the telly and the stories would stop for just once. I'm sorry, I'm not quite explaining it right, but this noise becomes anger and the anger is light. This burning inside me would usually fade, but it isn't today. And the heat and the shouting, and my heart is pounding and my eyes are burning. Suddenly everything is quiet. Like silence, but not really silent. Just that nice kind of quiet, like the sound when you're turning a page in a book, or a pause in a walk in the woods. Quiet. Like silence, but not really silent. Just that still sort of quiet, like the sound when you lie upside down in your bed. Just the sound of your heart in your head. And though the people around me, their mouths are still moving, the words they are forming cannot reach me anymore. And it is quiet, and I am warm, like I've said. Into the eye of the storm.
We hope you have enjoyed this look behind the curtain at some backstage elements which helped North Carolina Theater create Broadway in your backyard. Join us again next time for more looks backstage at NCT.